This is Carl Tepper sitting in for Chad Hasty. I've only got him for about 20 minutes. I've got a special guest today. Professor Horace Cooper is a writer and legal commentator. He's appeared on CNN, that's too bad, MSNBC, even worse, Fox News, okay, as well as in a variety of print publications. He's also a research fellow with National Center for Public Policy Research, senior fellow with the Heartland Institute, and director of law and regulation at the Institute for Liberty. He was a visiting assistant professor of law at George Mason University about 10, 15 years ago. George Mason University's School of Law. While there, his research focus was on U.S. intellectual property rights policy. I find that interesting. The role of the United States Supreme Court in the American constitutional system, political forecasting, the legislative process, and federal labor law. Mr. Cooper, I'm going to call him Professor Cooper, has served in senior capacities in the George W. Bush administration. He also served as, I think he was a senior counsel to the Honorable Richard K. Army, Dick Army, okay, and at the United States House of Representatives. His interests include current issues involving law and American society, political forecasting, and the changing makeup of the United States Supreme Court. And I think it's still morning on the East Coast. Good morning, Dr. Cooper. How are you?
Good morning. How are you? It's great to be on the program today.
Good, sir. Good to hear from you. We've been talking all morning. I'm a horse fan, a horse race fan. And the story this morning was about there's a black racehorse owner. By the way, Professor Cooper, he's black, and he wrote a book called "How Trump is Making Black America Great Again." And Professor Cooper, I've been fascinated with. I have an interest in Black America and how the Republican Party has. I don't think we've engaged very well with Black America, and so your book, hopefully, it's touching people in one way or another. But I feel like the Republican Party hasn't engaged very well with Black America. And what are your thoughts on this? Shouldn't we be doing better?
Well, the record of the effort of the GOP has been actually quite good. The reputation of the political party hasn't been good at all, and that's because there has been a concentrated effort on the part of progressives and the left to undermine, rather than, as normally would be the case, you have your competing platform and I have my competing platform, and we let the public decide. There's been a fairly aggressive effort to simply trash the one platform and not really do much to offer a compelling alternative. And that strategy has worked. The left has been very good at arguing that if the Republicans are in power, Black Americans might as well be tied to the back of a truck and dragged down the interstate as far as what was going to happen in their livelihood. And that ability, that effective ability, has obviated the need to actually put forward a platform. It's only in the last 3 years that Black Americans are starting to see that there are real, tangible benefits to having the policies that have been put forward by Republicans and conservatives for a generation or two that benefit America in its pocketbook. And that competition, I think, is changing the dynamic a lot.
So a rising tide floats all boats, right? You're from, I forgot the most important thing, you're a Texan, you're from the Houston area. You've become very distinguished. You're on television all the time. What brought you around to, less government sort of thinking that would make, your situation better in America?
Well, the interesting thing is I've actually held these views since I was a child. I was raised in a family and a community that expressed these views. The irony to me is what my grandmother taught me when I was 6 or 7 or 8 years old. We would often go and stay with my grandmother for the summer when I was a little kid. Those same values the progressives reject. My grandmother believed in hard work. My grandmother believed that, It's 5 a.m. It's time to get up. We got things we got to do. My grandmother bragged that she never received public support, never received food stamps. My grandmother actually thought it was a great thing if your name wasn't associated with law enforcement encounters. The irony to me is that today progressives would have you, your audience, and the American people broadly to believe that black Americans don't like the idea of working, don't like the idea of complying with the law and avoiding encounters with arrests and the like. You know what? The reason for my book is I'd like to remind people that there was a period nearly 100 years plus ago when black Americans were seen and recognized as the hardest working, particularly black men, the hardest working men in the community. Black Americans had the lowest unemployment rate, according to the old Department of Commerce, in the 1915, 16, 17, 18, all the way through the roaring 20s. Black American children were more likely to be born in intact families than any other racial group in that same period of time. Guess what? Federal prisons reported that black men were the least likely to be incarcerated during that period. There was a time when unemployment was explosive, when homeownership was explosive, and even the number of millionaires per capita was explosive. What we have done is we have forgotten all of that, and we have listened to what progressives tell us today is the truth. What happened then is a function of the conservative policies of people like Calvin Coolidge and Warren Harding that promoted free enterprise, and rewarded hard work and extra effort and intact families. We have had an experience for almost 50 years, an experiment saying, let's not do that, let's try something different. And it's not just been devastating for black America, it's been hell on earth for the country as a whole.
So I think you would agree with me, Professor, that, it's tough for being black in America, all right? We've had white conservatives, white liberals running around trying to find some sort of, solution. Where do we go from here? What do we need to be? Do we need to do something, or do we need to not be doing anything?
So here's the truth. Black Americans, like white Americans, actually don't need special coddling. Black Americans, like white Americans, don't need special policies. We tried during 8 years of the Obama administration to push government policy so that it favored some racial groups over others. The consequence of that is that the economic pie shrank. There was less for everyone. What actually works, what worked when John Kennedy was president, what worked when Ronald Reagan was president, and what is working with Donald Trump as president is policies that say that we're going to reward hard work. If you're an American, we're going to reorient policy so that it favors you. We're going to limit the scope of government intervention in the economy. And guess what we saw? Record numbers of black Americans re-entering the workforce. Record numbers now that the Department of Labor tracks unemployment. Record numbers of low unemployment. 6 separate records for low unemployment. Did you know that we set 4 records for high unemployment under the Obama administration for black Americans? But it's true, black Americans and white Americans suffered under the policies of Barack Obama. We need to redirect our efforts toward freeing up the economy. We need a president that will stand up for law enforcement as opposed to a president that encourages criminality. Blacks are telling America in survey after survey that more than any other group, they actually want law enforcement. And if you read my book, you'll see that more black men disproportionately serve in law enforcement than the country as a whole. 6.2% of America is black men. 11% of law enforcement is black American.
That's good. I never heard that before. The country is obsessed with, I would argue, Republicans and Democrats with the Hispanic vote. In Texas, the Republican Party of Texas runs around trying to get the Hispanic vote, which, by the way, we've kind of got it. I think 44% of Hispanics voted for Governor Greg Abbott, 43% for Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. But I've also learned through the years that blacks actually vote in much higher percentages than Hispanics. I also believe that there's a couple of things. I think we've given up on the black vote. I don't know why. Blacks just vote overwhelmingly Democratic. I'm still not sure why. That's another why question. And I'm wondering that all sounds great, that, a rising tide floats all boats and less regulation, less taxes. Why are we having such a hard time getting that message across? What does a political organization like the Republican Party need to do to get that message across?
Okay, couple things. One is there's no doubt that both political parties have made an aggressive effort toward what I would call, what I refer to in my book as the new favorite minority, and that's the Hispanic community. There are a lot more conversations, a lot more discussions about the policy that would be beneficial. The Democrats and the progressives have actually put nearly trillions of dollars of resources, new policies toward hiring, new policies toward creating citizenship rights, encouraging worker protections. These are attractive to communities, and it's no surprise to see that there's greater engagement. With Black America, as I said, there's been a 25-plus year-long effort to simply say, if the conservatives or if the GOP rises politically, your house is going to be burned down. You literally are going to see the repeal of the 13th and the 14th and the 15th Amendment. And this demagoguery is actually very, very effective. But what it took was 8 years of the policies of the Obama administration. And one data point, which I also mentioned in my book, Barack Obama set a record for being the first president to successfully be reelected to receive fewer black votes his second time than his first time in 100 years. What did Black America know? Black America saw that the very policies that were being put forward were hurtful. More Black Americans lost their homes under the 8 years of the Obama administration than we had seen in any presidency since the Great Depression. More Black Americans had their vehicle taken back. More Black Americans lost jobs, went on food stamps. That is something that they were able to see with their own eyes. It needed no ad campaign. It needed no specific messaging. And there is a reason that surveys are now saying that upwards of 15 to 17, maybe even as much as 20% of Black Americans are now supporting the conservative vision and Donald Trump. And that would be devastating for the outlook of progressives heading in to the 2020 election.
Now, things have, real quick here, things have changed obviously a little bit since probably you wrote the book with the pandemic. How do you think that, has that factor changed at all since you wrote the book?
Well, here's the thing. You can't let me buy a brand new pickup truck, which we saw record numbers in the Obama administration lose their vehicle and record numbers in 17, 18, and 19 buy new vehicles. More Americans who happen to be black went on their first vacation in a decade under the policies of Donald Trump. You can't let that happen and then suddenly take it away and think people are going to go, oh, great, I'm going to go back to the old policies. When our president talks about making the economic circumstance better, not just better than it is today, better than it was a year ago, that is very, very attractive. More small businesses made up of people who happen to be black exploded record numbers in 17, 18, and 19. Yes, under the pandemic, more of those businesses closed, but many of them are waiting for that opportunity to turn around. 1.4 million new jobs created. Just today, the numbers were announced. We're on track for some of the most explosive growth America has ever seen, and Black America is eager to take part in that.
Wow. Okay, that was a lightning round. I promised 20 minutes. How Trump is making Black America great again. Professor Horace Cooper, thank you, sir. I appreciate you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Have a great weekend. Bye-bye now.